Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Margaret, and here I share real-life stories from my friends at the nursing home. Let's begin. The nurse was humming, some pop song I didn't recognize, as she slid the IV needle from the vein in my hand. It stung. She smiled gently, as if the removal of this small plastic line marked something more symbolic, as if it meant I had survived, as if surviving was enough. "Looks like you're headed home tomorrow, Mrs. Linton." She meant well. I nodded, murmured a "thank you," and turned my face toward the window. The November sky was grey and low, the kind of sky that makes you ache in places you thought you'd healed. Then the knock came, software, timid. And when the door opened, it wasn't my daughter Emily's face I saw. It was a stranger's. "Mrs. Linton?" the man asked, holding a clipboard and an apologetic smile. "Sorry to bother you, ma'am. I'm from Cornerstone Realty. Just following up to confirm the final keys were transferred today. I was told this was your contact address well, for the property at 44 Windmere Lane." I blinked. I opened my mouth, closed it again. "I'm sorry, what?" He looked suddenly uncomfortable. "The house. The buyer's just closed. The documents listed you as previous owner." Uh, your daughter said—" I don't remember the rest of the sentence. Just the sound of my pulse roaring in my ears, the strange, detached awareness of my own breathing, like I was suddenly underwater. I could taste the bitter edge of my morning medication still at the back of my throat. My house, my garden, my lilacs, my books, my lemon-yellow curtains, gone. And my daughter had done it. Let me back up. My name is Margaret Linton. I turned 67 this summer. For 32 years, I taught American literature to high schoolers in a small Virginia town that smelled of pine needles and diesel and cafeteria pizza. I retired at 60. Not by choice, but because my knees gave out first, and then my hip. I walked out of my classroom with a bouquet of wilted roses and a teary-eyed student handing me a mug that said, "Best teacher ever," spelled in glitter and Sharpie. I cried in my car for an hour before driving home. My husband, Richard, had been gone 7 years by then. A quiet heart attack in his sleep. No drama, no goodbyes. Just a space in the bed and a hollowness that echoed every time I boiled water for 2 cups instead of 1. Emily, our only child, was 35 then. Ambitious, sharp, always too sharp. She'd moved to DC after college, some job in consulting, though I never understood quite what that meant. She came down for holidays, birthdays, sometimes. We got along, but never close. I wasn't the mother she admired, and she wasn't the daughter who needed me. Still, I thought we had something. A thread. That thread snapped the moment she sold my home. It had started with the fall. I was coming in from the garden, balancing a tray of seedlings, when my leg buckled and I crumpled like paper on the brick path. The pain was immediate, white hot. The neighbor boy heard me scream and called 911. The diagnosis: a fractured pelvis and some cracked ribs. 3 weeks in the hospital minimum, then rehabilitation. Emily came the second day. Brought a lavender cardigan, my reading glasses, and a bag of almonds I couldn't eat with my dry mouth. She kissed my forehead, adjusted my blanket, and smiled so kindly it made me cry. "It's okay, Mom. I've got everything covered. Just focus on getting better." And I believed her. But something had felt off. The second week, my mail stopped coming. She said she was forwarding it to keep it safe. My friend Lila called and said my garden gate had been taken off. I asked Emily about it. She laughed it off, said maybe the wind took it. Then she changed the subject. There was always a new distraction. A hospital form to sign, a doctor to meet, a nurse to listen to. I didn't press. I was tired, medicated, floating in and out of pain and sleep like a leaf on a river. Then, the man from the realty company appeared. I demanded a phone, called Emily. She answered on the second ring. Hey, Mom, I was just about to. You sold my house. Silence. Then a soft sigh. Mom, I was going to tell you tomorrow when I picked you up. The calmness in her voice cracked something in me. You had no right. I had every right, she said, her tone sharpening. I'm your medical proxy. You were barely conscious. The house was too much for you. You were drowning in clutter. The yard was unsafe. I did what needed to be done. My voice broke. You forged my signature? She didn't answer. I trusted you. You'll thank me later, she said. I already moved your essentials into a new place. It's a retirement condo. It has a view of the pond, and there's staff who check in. I'm not dead. You almost were. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, counting every crack in the plaster. My fingers curled around the scratchy hospital blanket like it was a lifeline. She had stripped me of my home, my history, my autonomy. She assumed I wouldn't come back from that bed. She bet on me dying. But she lost that bet. And I don't lose quietly. I left the hospital 2 days later, not in Emily's car like she planned, but in a cab I paid for with trembling hands. The driver was a young man who didn't ask questions, though he glanced at me a few times in the rearview mirror like he wasn't sure I should be alone. I gave him the address to a place only I knew, the storage unit I'd been renting for over a decade. Just off Highway 17, behind a chain-link fence and a faded sign that said, Safe and Sound Storage. The irony didn't escape me. Inside the unit, dust rose in golden shafts of light from the overhead bulb. My hands ached as I opened the boxes, each one carefully labelled in my handwriting. Tax records, Richard's files, letters from students, legal docs. I found what I was looking for in a folder marked House Deed, Original Copy. The ink was faded, but it was mine, my signature, notarized. I ran a thumb over the date, May 1994, the day Richard and I bought the place, our dream home. I took that, along with copies of our joint will, insurance policies, and, crucially, a power of attorney form from 2021, where I had revoked Emily's authority after a bad argument. I'd never told her. I never thought I'd need to. Apparently I did. The condo she placed me in was clean, too clean, sterile and silent, like a hotel lobby with no checkout date. Floral paintings hung crooked on cream walls. The view from the window was a pond, yes, but it was artificial, with a plastic duck bobbing on its surface like a joke. Emily had left a welcome basket, granola bars, chamomile tea, and a note that read, Let's talk soon. I promise this is all for the best. Love, M. I didn't cry, not then. I unpacked the few things she'd salvaged from my life, 2 dresses, some toiletries, and a single framed photo of her from high school. I placed it face down on the dresser. And then I made a list. The first name I wrote was Daniel Brooks. 15 years ago, he was just a boy in the back row of my honours English class. Quiet, lanky, always reading ahead. I remembered how he'd brought me tulips when his mother passed away, and how he stayed late to help reorganize the classroom library when my back was acting up. Last I heard, he'd gone into law. I found him easily enough. His office was in Norfolk. I called, half expecting a receptionist to block me, but within 5 minutes I was patched through. Mrs. Linton? His voice was warmer than I expected. Is that really you? We met the next day. He wore a blue tie and had the same gentle eyes I remembered. When I handed him the papers, he read in silence for 20 minutes. Then he looked up at me with something between pity and quiet rage. "She can't do this," he said. "This is elder abuse, fraud, maybe even grand larceny if she touched your accounts." I nodded, swallowing the shame. "She thinks I'm weak," I said. "She thinks she's won." Daniel leaned forward. "Then let's show her she hasn't." What followed was a blur of paperwork and whispered phone calls. Daniel filed an injunction against the property sale. Since Emily had forged documents while lacking a valid power of attorney, the title transfer could be challenged. The sale wasn't fully complete. Apparently, she had signed a preliminary transfer agreement with a buyer who hadn't yet moved in. That gave us a narrow window. I wrote a statement. It was the hardest thing I'd done since losing Richard. I laid it all out. How she had taken my trust and twisted it. How I had been sedated and isolated when she moved on my property. How she'd bet against my survival. We sent the buyer a certified letter explaining the dispute. Luckily, he was a nervous young man who wanted no part in drama and backed out. The real estate company, sensing legal fire, dropped Emily immediately. Daniel was efficient but kind. He handled the legal blows while I gathered the threads of myself, piece by piece. One night, I sat on the edge of the condo bed, staring at my wrinkled hands. "I raised her," I whispered aloud. "I read her Good Night Moon and baked her birthday cakes and stitched her costumes for school plays. I thought I was giving her a better life than I had. Where did I go wrong?" The silence didn't answer, but deep inside, a new voice whispered back. "You didn't go wrong. She made a choice. And now, so will you." Emily tried to call me 5 times over the next week. I didn't answer. Finally, I received an email, her tone clipped and professional. "Mom, we need to talk. I've been informed by a lawyer that the sale of the house is being contested. I don't know what you've been told, but I've only ever acted in your best interest. Please don't do anything rash." I didn't reply. 2 days later, she showed up at my door. "Mom," she said, stepping into the condo without invitation, "this is ridiculous." She wore a trench coat and carried a leather bag. Her makeup was flawless, her voice tight. "You think some kid lawyer is going to win this? You're wasting your time." I looked at her, really looked. There was no remorse, no love, just irritation. "I'm not trying to win," I said. "I already did." She blinked. "The sale is nullified. The buyer pulled out. The title reverts back to me, pending court confirmation, which we'll get, because I have proof. Of everything." Emily's lips parted slightly. You don't understand. That house was going to pay off my debt, my investments, and I was supposed to die." Silence. Finally, she whispered, "You're not thinking clearly." "I've never thought more clearly in my life." She stood in the doorway, suddenly smaller than I remembered. "So that's it? You're going to cut me off?" I didn't answer her. I just reached into the drawer and handed her the new will, freshly notarized. She flipped through the pages until her face turned pale. "You took me out," she said. "You left everything to some fund?" "A scholarship," I said. "For students who remind me of the ones I used to teach. Ones who never had anyone to believe in them." She stared at me, stunned. "I gave you love," I said. "You turned it into leverage." The next morning, she was gone. No goodbye. But I felt lighter, like I'd finally exhaled a breath I'd been holding for decades. A month later, I stepped back into my house for the first time since the fall. Everything smelled different, colder, emptier. Emily had cleared most of the furniture out, leaving behind only a few of my older things, as if she couldn't be bothered to finish the job. The lemon-yellow curtains were gone. So were the books. My lilac bush out back had been cut down completely. She'd called it overgrown. It was a husk of the home I remembered. But it was mine again, and slowly I would fill it back up. Daniel helped expedite the court order reinstating the house deed to my name. The judge's ruling was clear and scathing. He used the words maliciously deceptive and breach of fiduciary duty. Emily didn't attend the hearing. Her lawyer did, red-faced and muttering about misunderstandings. She didn't contest the decision. Perhaps she knew she'd lose. Or maybe her shame was stronger than her greed at last. I donated the welcome basket from the condo to the receptionist on my way out. I never went back there. 2 weeks after the ruling, I sat with Daniel at a tiny coffee shop downtown. He refused to bill me for his work, said it was the least I could do after you taught me how to love stories. So I found another way to repay him. I'm starting a fund, I told him, stirring my tea. A scholarship for students in literature or education. Something small to start, but real. Daniel's eyes lit up. In your name? I shook my head. Number in Richards. He would have liked that. I didn't tell him it was also the final nail in Emily's place in my life. She'd been removed from the new will, quietly, permanently. My legacy would not be hers to spend. My revenge wasn't shouting or screaming. It was this, calm, irreversible action. She thought I'd die. Instead, I rose. The house was never going to feel the same, so I didn't force it to. I sold it myself, legally this time, with a calm heart and a clear mind. No one stole it from me. I gave it up by choice. And with the money, I bought something small, a seaside cottage in a sleepy town 2 hours east. Just a single bedroom, creaky floors, and wild roses climbing the fence. It smelled like salt and pine. Every morning, the ocean murmured outside my window, soft as breath. It was enough. I made friends again, real friends, women who invited me to book clubs and church suppers. A man named William, who brought over homemade chowder one rainy night and quoted Robert Frost as he poured the wine. I'm not interested in falling in love, I told him. He smiled. I'm more interested in being good company. That was enough, too. Sometimes Emily still emails. She doesn't apologize. She asks vague questions. Hope you're well. Or, any chance we can talk about the will? I never reply. I'm not angry anymore. Just done. She had her chance to know me, to stand beside me as a daughter. Instead, she treated me like a fading asset. Now she's just a name on a closed door. The scholarship fund launched last spring. 4 students received help. A single mum studying early education, a boy from a foster home majoring in literature, a girl who said her dream was to teach 3rd grade, because that's the age people need kindness the most, and a shy poet who signed her thank you note with a drawing of a daisy. I keep that note on my fridge. I read every one of their essays. I cried after each one. Not because I was sad, but because, at long last, I was part of something good again. Last week, I sat on my back porch with the breeze in my hair and a cup of coffee warming my fingers. The sun rose, slow and golden, over the ocean. I thought about Richard, about Emily, and the silence we now share, about how grief makes you pliable, how betrayal hardens you, but time shapes you into something else. Not bitter, not broken. Solid. I'm 68 now. I walk with a cane. My knees ache on rainy days, but my heart is full. I live quietly, but I live on my own terms,